So, look, let's kick it off. Right now, we're going to get right into it again. A very, very big GM to everybody listening out there, wherever it is you're listening from, whether you're a little closer to us and the Illuvium team out here, of course. I think, are the Illuvium team based in Sydney? I believe you guys are based in Sydney. We're out here in Melbourne, Australia. Um,
Yeah, the co-founders, the three brothers are based in Sydney, but core team is across 37 different countries.
You got it. You gotta love it, baby. That Web3 Web3 working around the globe. We love to see it. And of course, again, so a very big GM to everybody listening, and of course, as usual, a very big good day to all our Metaverse HQ fam. And of course, on the Metaverse HQ account today, I believe we have EQ Poppy as well. So thank you again, EQ Poppy, for facilitating today's session. As always, we're going to be taking it away right now. So let's get right to it. We, of course, have the team from Illuvium here today with us. The game itself needs little to no introduction. If you've been in the space for a hot minute, you've heard of Illuvium. You know what they're about, of course, an auto-battling NFT integrated game. It's going to be a good one today. We've got both Illuvium's head of marketing, Andrew, and co-founder Kieran here, who've graciously joined us today to talk about Illuvium and about their upcoming land sale. So thank you for joining us, Andrew and Kieran, both. Perhaps for any listeners, who are a little brand new to the space, or perhaps who might be hearing, or hearing from the both of you for the first time, despite potentially knowing about Illuvium, can you perhaps introduce yourselves just very briefly, a little bit of background perhaps on yourselves, and sort of the path that led you both to creating a AAA NFT game?
Sure, I can go first. So just very briefly, my first experience was starting one of the first over-the-counter Bitcoin exchanges in Australia, and that was back in 2016. I started investing from there, got pretty heavily involved in like Ethereum and altcoins back 2017, 18. I then left the space for a brief minute and ended up coming back and finding NFTs, and then finally decided to build a game, which has been a dream of mine and the two other co-founders who are also my brothers since pretty much growing up. So yeah, it's been a pretty crazy and fun journey.
For me, my journey's been a little bit different. Hey, so I'm Andrew Wall, head of marketing here on the official Illuvium account. I started creating gaming video content 12 years ago. I saw my first esports cast video about StarCraft then, and I realized that gaming and the internet coming together was going to change the space forever, and I needed to have a piece of that. So long story short, I ended up creating 10,000 gaming videos, creating the largest gaming influencer network of all time. It's now a publicly traded company. And I have been coaching the top gaming creators and building top gaming and media brands for the last 12 years. I had that aha moment recently, like I did when I saw that first StarCraft esports video 12 years ago, when I saw Illuvium. And I saw that NFTs, ownership, crypto converging with gaming was the next big thing to happen to gaming, just like Web 2 was to gaming last decade. So I randomly DM'd Kieran. I said, hey, man, can I join the team? I was hired within 24 hours, and now I'm the head of marketing. It's been a wild ride, and I'm so excited to be a part of Illuvium.
Awesome. That's absolutely incredible, and just some casual like credentials there. Nothing absolutely heavy at all about it. You love to we love to see it. Mick, I see you unmuted there. Go for it, my friend.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. That is one of the better interview processes, I would say. Give me job given. But thanks for the introduction, guys. That was great. And we are gonna run a little bit to a plan set of questions, and we're leaving them pretty open ended to give you guys some room to flex. Land is going to come a little bit later. We just want to start by talking about the game itself and the beta that's out. So previously you've mentioned with Illuvium that you're targeting to become a competitor to some of the biggest traditional game companies in the world. I think Activision was referenced. Can you provide a bit of an overview of the vision for the company? So where do you want Illuvium to be in 5 years?
Yeah, for sure. So we're looking to build. There's a narrative out there that the metaverse is going to be one large interoperable space where games with all sorts of different IPs and mechanisms can just freely go within each other's economies and whatever. And the reality is we're still very, very, very far away from that. And so we definitely don't have that vision. Our vision is about keeping things inside the Illuvium universe. And yes, that sits inside of the overall metaverse, but we're talking about building a proper suite of interoperable games that have a fuel system or an underlying economy that is used throughout every single game that we produce. And in future, once we open up our universe and allow other developers to come into the space and start utilizing our IP, we will also allow the same sort of interoperable assets to be played across our universe as well. And so you'll get this massive, massive amount of IP where essentially you might be playing in Illuvium Arena and you go out and Illuvium Overworld, you go out and you capture a ram fire, right? And you might take that into Illuvium Arena where you can start battling that ram fire, and then you might take that asset and start using it as your character in a Mario Kart style racing game that we come up with. And that might not be us. That might be a gaming studio that comes to us and says, "Hey, we would love to use your characters and your IP to create this awesome sort of Nintendo Mario style game," and we're all for that. And because we're utilizing NFTs and the blockchain, we have the ability to control what is inside of our universe, and that is the grand vision that we have, which is building out an IP that is very similar to like your World of Warcraft or Warcraft in general, really, where you've got characters that have been used throughout the entire ecosystem for 10, 15, 20 years, but you've never actually been able to take a character that you were using in, say, the original Warcraft and then bring that into World of Warcraft. That's what we're trying to achieve with Illuvium.
It really is when we first got into Web3, many of us that were interested in gaming, there was that vision, that dream of owning an asset and then having that asset port into other games, which is, I feel it's been lost in in the noise. So it's really good to hear you holding that line. That's great. I see, Andrew, you have your hand up. Did you want to cover anything?
Yeah, just in reference to like legacy game studios and how the moment that Illuvium is in right now is similar to where the strategies that these studios have used in the past. I think of Illuvium as being like a League of Legends or a World of Warcraft or a Fortnite, and hear me out, in just a strategic sense. World of Warcraft, developed by Blizzard, of course, was not the first MMORPG ever. EverQuest existed before World of Warcraft, but the strategy Blizzard used was take an existing game genre, make a AAA version of that game, and layer a new business model on top, subscription, and then take that to market. Boom, it became the biggest MMORPG of all time. All right, let's take League of Legends, for example. That wasn't the first MOBA to ever exist. Dota existed before it. Riot Games took the MOBA genre. They made a AAA game in that genre. They layered a new business model on top, free to play, took it to market. Boom, it became the biggest MOBA and esport of all time. Let's take Fortnite, for example. It was not the first battle royale ever created. PUBG existed before it, but Epic Games took the battle royale genre, they created a AAA version, and they layered a new business model on top, Battle Pass model. Boom, it became the biggest battle royale of all time. So the point of sharing those three examples is I think that's, in a nutshell, what Illuvium is and where Illuvium sits in the market right now, but not in the Web 2 world like those three examples, but in the Web 3 world, where we're taking existing genres of games like auto battlers, for example. This isn't the first auto battler ever made. TFT, Teamfight Tactics, already exists, but we're making a AAA version of that. And we're layering the new business model on top. Call it crypto, NFT, tokenomics, DAO, use whatever term you want. And then we're taking that to market. And I see Illuvium being positioned to be a breakout in the space and to be a mega title because we're following the strategy that has worked in the past for major breakout titles. Make a AAA version of something that already works, insert new business model on top, take that to market competently, and you can really, really be successful if you're innovating.
Awesome. That's absolutely incredible to hear, and I do agree. You know, I've followed the Illuvium project for many months now. I think it's almost coming up to close to a year now, and you know, to see sort of your team progress through its various sort of iterations, especially through your recruitment process, has been absolutely phenomenal. So I've no doubt you have the capability in place to deliver. Now let's talk about Illuvium, the game itself, for a little. Can you perhaps provide the audience a quick snapshot of the story, right? So, you know, we get into the game and we're playing the game. Who are players in the game, and sort of how do they fit into the Illuvium universe, just briefly?
Yeah, so you're a spacefaring colony, and you crash land on this weird alien planet, and you need to work out what is going on in on this planet. It's already been colonized, so you've already got a bunch of technology that is being used, and you yourself are a ranger. You're not the hero of the story. You're just another ranger that is out there, and your job is to go around the overworld, which is made up of eight different biomes, which are different regions, and your job is to go around and collect all of the alluvials and try and work out why you are on the planet and what happened on the planet. And so we don't like to go into too much detail in terms of the storyline, because you're literally, as you're journeying through the different regions, you're learning about what happened on the planet, what are alluvials, where is this world going, and what you're trying to achieve is all inbuilt through the story as you travel through.
That is a great overview, and as part of that story, there is what's available in the beta right now, and from the various game modes that you're going to be releasing. This one is a survival mode, auto chess battler, and it is a style of game that I personally really enjoy. So I think there's some features in your version of the auto battler which are quite unique and quite fun. So if we can talk a little bit about what's in the beta and how people can play that game and how it differs, maybe. The first thing I want to hone in on is within the game, you have alluvials and armaments. That kind of make up your hand, where you can deploy things and change your strategy to beat your opponent. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what those two things are, and so everyone gets an idea?
Yeah, so there's different compositions that make up a team. You have each alluvial has a different class and affinity, and so what you're trying to do is basically build a board so specifically in survival mode, you have a certain amount of points that you can put out in every round that comes out in every wave, and those are called mastery points. And certain alluvials or different alluvials have different mastery point amounts, and you start putting them out on the board, and what you're trying to do is basically build the strongest composition to better your opponent, right? So if you're and we use a very simple, it's simplistic battle system that we use, and it goes back to those core classes and affinities, where essentially if you're going up against a team that is heavily fire based, let's say, or even some of the stronger compositions like Inferno, which is double fire, right? If you're going up against a team like that, you're likely to put down a bunch of water characters, and the reason is you're trying to combat them. There's a bunch of different things, like if you're familiar with auto battlers, we've introduced things like going hyper, where if you put up the exact opposite affinity in terms of, let's use that example again, you put water up against fire, the water alluvial over time, if it keeps on targeting a fire alluvial, is going to go hyper and start really ripping into that sort of a team. And so it's all about countering the opposite team, and bettering your opponent by using the different affinities and skills that each alluvial has. On top of that, we have things like weapons and armor, which also cost you mastery points. And so you gotta think really strategically at which alluvials you place down on the board, which type of armor you use, which type of weapons you use, and so we've tried to keep the auto battler, I guess, keep true to the genre of an auto battler, but we add in a few different elements that make it a little bit more complex and remove some of the RNG that is typical with auto battlers.
And that was a very key point I wanted to touch on, because, yeah, auto battle is typically you chuck a bunch down and they combine, and then you're locked in, right? If you want to remove one of your chess pieces, that's going to cost you, and that's a decent investment that you then need to really weigh up. Is this something I want to do? And I find that makes a lot of the traditional games very meta-centric. You literally have one or two squads that people deploy and build into, and if you're lucky, you get the rolls, you win. If you don't, you lose, and it just becomes, to rank up, it is nothing but a very long, arduous, and painful grind. Whereas with this system that you've put in, it's very clear that it's going to be a lot more tactical, because you're going to be able to swap in and out at will each round with the restriction of 2 per round, and you're going to need to read your opponent a lot more. So I really do like how you've sort of built on that. Is the intent, with that in mind, that this is going to become a lot more esport focused, either this particular game mode or Illuvium? Because it does feel like it's catering more to pro play, in inverted commas.
Yeah, so absolutely. So the in terms of the auto battler component, survival mode is not designed to. It's more a training session that you go through. It's not PvP right now. We are talking about turning it into PvP very, very shortly, where you can go up against. You go into a unique instance where it's just you and your opponent going up against the same waves, but they're unique to yourself and your opponent. So you know that they can't they kind of have seen what the waves were before, whereas what's out right now, playable in the private beta, is not that PvP version. But certainly once the arena mode comes out, which is our fully fledged auto battler with PvP, that's when we're talking, serious esports competitions. Were, from a marketing standpoint, we're talking about putting obscenely large prize pools down to really drag people in. But I think one other point that just on the auto battler that makes it interesting, and certainly will make it a better experience for the collectors that are out there. But you can't actually put, like, it's not like Teamfight Tactics, for example, where every single character is available to you. If you don't have a character, you can't play that character. And so what we're trying to do there is say, look, there's 185 characters out there in set 1 alone, right? And so balancing that amount of characters in an auto battler is ridiculously challenging. And so what we want as well to sort of add to that is, you don't get, like, it might be 12 months before someone actually captures a ramfire, let's say. And so these meta strategies, as people capture a new alluvial and as they become more prominent, because remember, just one person having a ramfire is probably not going to develop into this mega meta strategy where they're putting it on like mobilytics and stuff like that, because there's only one person playing it. So over time, as these alluvials are found, the meta inside the game is going to change massively. And obviously we're using a deterministic battle system that is it's pretty much backed by a spreadsheet. And so we can essentially change parameters for alluvials and rebalance them very, very quickly. But it still introduces this new paradigm of auto battlers, where there's just meta strategies that are appearing constantly as new characters are introduced. And again, that's just talking set 1. Then there's set 2, set 3, set 4. And so this idea of learning a single meta strategy and being able to just sit on that and like you can, in auto battlers today, like you can go with a couple of different meta strategies and you can get really, really good at them, and you can basically get to a fairly high rank without exploring all the other strategies out there. And so we think that having this ability to increase those meta strategies as you go along is going to make it way more interesting. And again, it's going to remove a lot of that RNG.
Right, that's really detailed information, and it's quite interesting. I like hearing how you're going to be essentially involving the community in the release process for your content, with that whole gating around the overworld. So that's quite interesting. Andrew, I see your hands up. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify about esports. So I think a lot of us here are well versed in different game studios and publishers saying our game is an esport before it even launches. We're not doing that, just to be clear. For us to head toward Illuvium being a proper esport, we're going to start by obviously implementing competitive, launching our game, doing things like community tournaments, then doing things like, semi-formal tournaments with smaller prize pools, and then working our way up toward a proper esports league, and then major events with gigantic prize pools like Kieran is talking about. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that we need to ensure that the competitive aspects of Illuvium are intact, and that we've properly tested, balanced, and ensure that the spectator experience The like replay systems, camera controls, like, things like that are all in place for us to support esports. And not only have we talked about the big prize pool for esports, but also our tier 5 land. And there's only 2 of those that are going to be available in the upcoming land sale. It's actually going to have a landmark built into the tier 5 land called an arena landmark that's actually going to host our official esports tournaments in the future. And anyone that owns that tier 5 land will be able to get sponsorships and actually earn the proceeds of our esports events on their land NFT. And so the point of sharing that is to say that we're planning for the future for esports. However, we're not assuming that, right when we launch, this is going to be a full-blown esports ready title. We know that we need to work our way up to that. And, we're going to come in humble, start competitive and grassroots, and build up to that over time.
And I can say firsthand for anyone that is liking the sound of big prize pools, if you want to get competitive with Illuvium, I would get into that beta urgently, because I've been playing every day, and those leaderboards, the skill of the player base already is out of control, and the game is quite difficult, which is great. It's really really fun to play, and it's nice that we're tying a lot of this into the land, which we'll get to in just a moment. What we're trying to do is give everyone a sense of this isn't like some of the other projects that are just dropping land and you don't really know what they're going to do with it. And there's no real proof in the pudding. With you guys, there's actual functional content, and it's quite well developed. And one of the things I wanted to touch on around that was the game modes. So this is your Auto Chess Battler is the first game mode. Can you talk about the other game modes you have already in the roadmap?
Yeah, so I guess the most prominent one, or the most appropriate one to talk about, would be Illuvium Zero. It's not necessarily a game mode. It's its own complete game in itself, and it's designed to be a companion game to Illuvium. And the way that works is it's a top-down city builder game, and the whole idea is you're trying to maximize the output of your land plot, and you do that by building these structures that essentially allow you to start extracting different elements and fuel from your land. And those are important for making your land and your city better and bigger and more productive in terms of the fuel output, but it's interconnected with the main game. And so people in Illuvium who are traveling or capturing alluvials or reviving their alluvials if they faint in battle, all of these sorts of in-game transactions, they all require fuel, and the only way that you can acquire fuel is from the main Illuvium Zero. So you literally need to own a land plot in order to be able to provide that fuel to the Illuvium players. What that basically translates to is 5% of all in-game revenues will funnel back to landholders in Illuvium Zero. And so it's interesting that you said, a lot of projects in the space will come out with a land sale and sell a whole bunch of NFTs, take a bunch of money, and promise to build out a game in the future. For us, Illuvium Zero is already real. We're playing it internally. The alpha is set to release 3-4 weeks after the land is actually sold. And so when people ask, hey, why are you selling land? It's like, because we actually need people to own land in order to be able to play the game that we built, which is pretty rare in this space. So that's one. The other modes are survival mode, which we just talked about, which is more training grounds. Then you've got Illuvium Arena, which is your ranked PvP battles. That's what we're just touching on in terms of esports. And then you have the overworld, which I think a ton of people are excited about, which is your Pokemon-esque type world. You've got 185 different creatures to go and collect in these 7 different biomes. And yeah, that's what's on the roadmap now. In the future, I don't want to talk too crazy. We've got a lot to build now, but in the future we've talked about having a MOBA be the first expansion, and I'm really excited about that.
Wow, that is not a small announcement. That's music to my ears, I must say. One question I have is around the heroes within the game. So the player takes on a persona within your world. Are they going to get a PFP of their character? Is there going to be hero customization? Can you maybe talk a little bit about how people are going to represent themselves in the world of Illuvium?
Yeah, so this changes. This type of thing changes all the time, but there is, I think, 4 or 5 female and male ranges that you can choose from when you land, and I'm fairly certain you get to choose. You're not like assigned one. And same thing with your companion robot. You get a choice of 4 or 5 different robots that you can use. The companion robot is what goes around the overworld with you and assists you with things like capturing alluvials, harvesting different plants so you can start crafting weapons and armor and stuff like that. And yeah, so in terms of customizing them, I don't want to rule it out, but it certainly isn't. It's not, apart from being able to equip them with weapons and armor. It's not like you can and skin. Well, I mean, I guess you can put skins on them. You can put different skinned armor on them and all that kind of stuff. So that theoretically is customizing it, but it's not like you can start, modeling your ranger's face and stuff like that and height and yeah.
And I'd like to add there, other, I think you might be referencing this, but other ways you can represent yourself in Illuvium games, all of them will be Illuvatars. So we've got multi-layered modular NFTs. And we'll be talking more about this after the land sale that's coming up. But Illuvatars are basically your avatar in Illuvium. And there's a base portrait, which is of an alluvial, part of the first set of alluvials. And then on top of that, there's multiple, let's call them equipment slots or gear slots, where you can slot in customizations on top of your avatar, either for things like headwear or eyewear or different skins on top of your alluvial, etc., to where you can put together a completely customized avatar to represent yourself in Illuvium games. And then that mints this sort of multi-layered super NFT. So traditionally, people think of PFPs as, just one image that you get. Maybe it's customized, random, or interesting. Illuvium's avatars and kind of version of PFPs will be multi-layered and customizable by users. And they will have different ranges of rarity for all of the accessory slots and for the base portraits as well. And so that will be a really cool way for gamers that want to come in and want to rep on social media or want to rep in Illuvium games to have potentially a completely unique avatar. It's possible that everyone would have a completely unique Illuvatar, if they properly customize it. And so that's something I'm really excited about. And that's the kind of maybe innovation or taking something like PFPs and then taking it to the next level that Illuvium is doing. We're taking these existing ideas, like I mentioned earlier, that are already out there in the in industries, and then we're trying to make them AAA or to innovate on them or to make them significantly better. And so I think that Illuvatars will be, hopefully, I think it'll set a standard on things like PFPs in the future.
Oh man, what an alpha drop that was. I don't know if you noticed it while you were talking, Andrew, but there were clapping emojis going up all across the room.
Oh,
So,
I felt it across the internet. I felt it over here.
I just want to be clear though. These Illuvatars are your PFP, not your in-game ranger. So just setting that expectation. But yes, I mean, if we're talking Illuvatars, I can go all day on those guys. They're going to be unbelievably innovative in terms of what you can do with them and what their use cases will be in the future. Trust me on that.
I love it, especially with the approach that you've taken to interoperability, which I'm a big advocate of. I can't wait to see what the Illuvatars have in store for us. But of course, there's something else happening in just about a week's time, and of course, that's going to be the land sale. So now that we've set the scene, let's begin to talk land, right? So we know there's going to be land inside Illuvium. It's going to have its own unique mechanics, which make it instrumental in the tokenomics ecosystem. Like you talked about, you basically need people to own land to play the game. Why don't we do some scene setting here? Can you talk listeners through the plans for Illuvium land and why they're going to want to secure themselves a plot?
Sure thing. So we are selling in total. There's 100,000 plots that will be on sale over a 2-3 year period. In this first sale event, we are putting 20,000 up for sale. That's across 5 different tiers, and then on top of that, there's one virtual. So if you want to just play land and don't have the liquidity, or you don't want to spend money until you figure out that you are going to like the game, you have the ability to jump in and start playing free. But you have these 5 tiers of land, and really there's two main things that you're trying to do with this game. The first is obviously extract as many elements and as much fuel from your land as possible, and that's as I spoke about, pretty straightforward. Idea is when you have accumulated enough fuel, you sell that into a pool that allows you to then pull out the ETH from that pool. Depending on the demand for that specific fuel type at the time will depend on the amount of ETH that you're able to get back. Obviously, if you're selling into the pool at a time when everyone is happens to be selling, call it Solons, which is one fuel type, then you're not going to get a premium on that. But if you wait until a point when, let's call it, the market isn't is basically is pumping and people are traveling all across the world, and your fuel type is in demand, then you're going to fetch a premium for that. So that's the cool sort of fuel interoperability. Then the second one is blueprints. Now, blueprints make me very, very, very excited. So essentially, what a blueprint is, it's like a recipe to be able to go and craft a unique weapon and a skinned weapon at that. So let's take an atlas, for example. That's one of our most popular alluvials. So this little blue guy, if you have an atlas that runs by your land, and you have built a singularity scanner on your land, which is one of the structures that you can put up, you can do a scan, and if that atlas has gone by and you've picked it up and you're lucky enough, once you take that scan and you start researching it in your research center, there's a very, very small chance that you'll be able to pull out a blueprint from that biodata from the alluvial. Now, what that will give you is an NFT blueprint, which will allow you to be able to mint an Atlas piece of armor, right? So the cool thing about that is you will be the only person to have that blueprint potentially forever or for a long amount of time. So you have a choice then. As that landowner, you can sell the blueprint knowing that someone else is going to potentially set up a business around that, or you can do exactly that yourself. And what I mean by that is if you've got the only blueprint, so you've got the only means to be able to create this Atlas inspired piece of armor that looks super cool, like what makes it, makes it a flex in game when you're battling, then you have the ability to control the market price of what you sell that armor for, right? So effectively you can go and mint 10,000 of them and flood the market, and you'll probably only get $10 $20 for them. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to make these super limited but very, very expensive, and the people who want them, and us gamers, we're pretty crazy when it comes to things like skins and stuff, we're willing to spend any amount of money to get that flex, to know that I'm the only one who has that Atlas armor. And that's the agency that you get as a landowner on top of that 5% of in-game purchases that is going to funnel back to your land.
Get that flex. You are not wrong. That's probably one of the trademarks of NFT City. Can I ask, what is the actual mechanics within the gameplay of the land? Is it more of a passive set and forget? Is there an active element to it?
Yeah, so it's certainly an active element. But it is, setting expectations. It's an idle clicker, right? So you probably need to spend to optimize your land somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes a day on building out structures. When a structure finishes being built, you want to be in position so you're not waiting to set up another building to start. And things like extraction, it takes a certain amount of time to do things like that. So if you extract and then you forget to come back after like a day, then there's going to be some losses had there. And so yeah, you need to stay active, but it's not like to control your one land plot you need to be available 10 hours a day. That's a little too crazy.
Yeah, my personal game plan, because my wife loves playing town builder mobile games, is to buy land and then to hand her my phone or have her log in on her phone and manage it for me, because she enjoys all of that optimization and being there to click when the resource is available, etc. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be more casual, more relaxed experience. And I've been playing the demo here internally, and it's, think standard town builder on mobile amount of time commitment.
That clears it up, and I do have 3 young children myself who I've been waiting to deploy into something that can be a good use of their time, and we may have found it. So, with the different tiers of land, can you basically talk about the differences in those tiers? A little bit of marketing around why the upper tiers are probably something people want to go after. That'd be great.
I'm happy to tackle this one if you want, Karen. I'll give you a quick break. So basically, at the bottom, we have free tiers of land called Tier 0. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is our Illuvium 0 mobile and companion game. Anyone can experience that land gameplay we were talking about a moment ago, that town builder experience, for free using Tier 0. But I want to clarify that tier 0 does not actually yield anything that could be sold or worth any monetary value. So it's free. It's a free to play experience. Let's say if you want to get in there, try it out, etc. In terms of the tiers that actually yield something of monetary value, tier 1 has a certain number of element sites and fuel sites that you can harvest resources from. It has no landmark and it has no production boost. And it's basically kind of like your bottom tier, if you will, land, but you will be able to get element and fuel harvesting from that land. As you move up to tier 2 land, there's more element sites and more fuel sites. There's no landmark on your land, but tier 2 land is different than tier 1 because it has a production boost on the land that boosts the amount of resources you get from that particular tier. Then, once you move up to tier 3 land, that's when you start getting landmarks. So, tier 3 land has even more element sites and fuel sites, but it has an element landmark. And so, what that element landmark does is it allows you to get obviously boosted element production on that particular type of land. And it's a significant boost. Then, when you move up to tier 4 land, there's even more element sites and even more fuel sites. And that tier has a unique fuel landmark, which has a massive production boost in terms of fuel on tier 4. And then finally, the top tier land, tier 5, has the most element sites, the most fuel sites, and its unique landmark is the arena landmark that I told you about earlier that will host our esports tournaments, have sponsorship opportunities, etc., as this unique functionality. It is the most rare and it's kind of the apex land. And that one has an insane production boost in terms of resources. And so, just in summary, tier 1 is kind of your standard land. Tier 2 has a boost. Tier 3 has an element landmark. Tier 4 has a fuel landmark. And tier 5 has that arena landmark. Those are the tiers of land, tier 1 through 5.
And there's a couple of questions there. One, with tier 5, are they all going to follow the same sale mechanism, or I think tier 5 was an auction? Is that correct?
Yeah, so tier 1 through 4 land will be sold Dutch auction style. And we've set the prices, we hope, let's call it slightly to moderately above, perhaps what market value may be for land. So the price can fall consistently from when it goes out for auction. A lot of you guys are familiar with Dutch. I'm just explaining for those that don't know Dutch. The price is slightly too high when it goes out for auction, and it just decreases over time until it's bought. And then that helps you basically get proper price discovery in the market, tier 1 through 4. Tier 5 is different. The terminology I guess I'll use is what's a normal English auction, let's call it, where it starts at a very low price, let's call it, and then it's just people bid all the way up into infinity, quote unquote normal auction style, until the end of the land sale. And so tier 5 land will be out for auction in a live English or in a normal English auction at the beginning of the land sale. And then those will be closed off for bidding at the end of the land sale. So it is a different type of auction mechanic there.
Got you. So there's going to be different layers of price discovery here, which is super interesting. With the different tiers of land, just on what Kieran was mentioning earlier with the blueprints and discovering the alluvial skins, is that going to have different rates depending on the tier of land?
No.
Okay.
So the good thing about that is for the little guys out there that are looking at those tier 2, 3s, and 4 prices and having a heart attack, never fear. You can purchase, because blueprints for me, I mean, the fuel is awesome and it's needed, and there are going to be a ton of people out there, investors, that just are going to be fuel barons, if you will. But those blueprints, they're super cool, and I want them to be in the hands of the smaller type, like, community members who are genuine players and lovers of Illuvium, not just in there to extract value out of it. I want them to be able to have the same opportunity as tier 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, essentially as the whales, to be able to build these businesses around selling these NFT skins.
I think that's a very, very good decision, and it really helps provide a really good use case for the bottom tier of land beyond fuel. So that's great. With the auction, there's 20,000 land plots available for purchase. Is that right? With 80,000 remaining plots, is that correct? And if so, can you talk to what's happening with the remaining 80,000?
Yeah, that is correct. And we are looking to sell, again, we're a fully decentralized protocol. So anything that we do, when I say we, I really mean the community, because they will be the ones who are essentially setting the distribution dates of these land sales. But in my opinion, it will be done over a 2 to 3 year period.
Right. Okay. That's good to know. And then with the land assets, once people get a hold of them, they're going to have a generative element to them. I imagine from what you were saying earlier, is that going to be visually represented? Is the first part of the question, and the second part is, are people going to be able to modify their land over time?
Yeah, so one thing that we're doing a little bit differently is you're actually able to, the UI that we've built, you're actually able to go and select the land that you want prior to even purchasing it. And when I say select, I mean like browse and look at the different regions and check, okay, this is my strategy. I'm going to buy land in, maybe Crimson Waste. I'll buy 5 tier 1 plots there. You can check it, all of that out. What you don't know is, you know how many element sites and how many fuel sites there are going to be on the land, but you don't know which type of sites you're going to get. So we wanted to leave a little bit of excitement in there, but you will know. It's not like you can purchase a tier 2 and go, oh shit, I didn't get any element sites or whatever like that. I got unlucky, right? You might just get a different type of element site.
Right. Okay. Understand. And appreciate you guys are we're running into the hour mark, so we'll try to cover off with a couple of quick questions before we close. Really appreciate your time today. One of the things I wanted to touch on we haven't yet is the tokenomic model. So you guys have a very, very detailed staking and tokenomic system. It permeates your entire everything that Illuvium's doing, and the vault is really quite a critical step in that process. Can you just talk about the Illuvium vault quickly so people know how that system underpins everything, and why they're going to want a piece of that?
For sure. So essentially, the ILV token grants you 2 things. It grants you governance, which we briefly talked about, and it grants you access to revenue distributions. And that's the one thing that sets us apart from every other project in the space. We literally distribute 100% of revenues back to people who are staked in the protocol. And when I say 100% of revenues, I really mean 100% of revenues. So in terms of this land sale that's coming up, if you were to go and purchase ILV today and you staked it, you will gain proportionately, based on how much you've staked, access to the revenue distributions of this land sale, right? So to put that, to really paint a clear picture there, if we go and generate $100 million from this land sale, and you own 1% of the circulating supply of the not circulating supply, that's wrong, of the active supply, I will say, you are literally going to earn $1 million from this land sale in revenue distributions. That's one part of it in terms of the land sale. Literally every single in-game action that people do that requires a fee, from capturing alluvials, traveling around to the different regions, battling other people, and wagering ETH, that attracts a fee as well. Marketplace transaction fees, literally every single thing that attracts a fee in Illuvium goes back into the vault. Now, the vault has a mechanism where periodically it will purchase ILV back from the market. So think, this land sale, again, let's just use the 100 million number for ease of use. If we go and generate $100 million in ETH from this sale, we are literally going to do multiple buys on market of the ILV token. You're talking, potentially $5-10 million buys at a time. You're going to see a very nice increase in the token price due to that buying pressure. And then what the system does is it then distributes it to the people that are staked in the protocol, and that is unlocked. So they're able to either sell it for ETH and make a profit on that straight away, or what I think a lot of people will do is restake it so they can start compounding those revenue distributions and gain even more rewards.
And one thing I'd add to that is not the plan is not only to have it be in-game activities and getting the proceeds of that redistributed through revenue distribution, also out of game proceeds. So any merchandising, let's say licensing for a Netflix show, or any kind of external revenue generating activities around the Illuvium intellectual property, we also would like to include those into revenue distribution in the future. So it's not just Illuvium games, it's sort of the Illuvium intellectual property, if you will.
Literally everything attached to, and when we say not just Illuvium games, if we were to, for example, create an environment where other games were to come in and they were powered by Illuvium, it would be the exact same thing, right? All revenues funnel back to the ILV token.
That is absolutely stellar. What an absolutely incredible masterclass, I'll say, in decentralized governance and ownership. Look, that has been absolutely awesome. The Illuvium team, you guys have been absolutely incredible. We are unfortunately just over the hour mark here, so we're very conscious of time. Unfortunately, we are going to need to wrap. Did you have any closing comments for us here today, either Kieran or Andrew?
Don't FOMO into the land sale, and have fun.
That's going to be incredibly challenging to do, ladies and gentlemen. The team from Illuvium, give them, of course, a big hand one time. Thank you again for your time today. It's been absolutely incredible. Make sure you check out their land sale coming up 2nd of June. Follow that Illuvium account on Twitter at IlluviumIO for more information. As always, this has been Vigil with Mick, and today with the Illuvium IO team. Again, a very big thank you, Kieran and Andrew, and of course, a big love to Metaverse HQ. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.